Is Hollywood anti-Christian? Rainn Wilson, who is most known for playing Dwight Schrute in The Office, has recently accused Hollywood of having an un-Christian bias.
True. Welcome to the Hotel Hell. Check-in time is now, check-out time is never.
Today we're going to dive into his claim and see if there's any truth to it. So I think most Christians already know that Hollywood does have an anti-Christian bias. It's not a Christian establishment or industry, and their absolute main goal is to make as much money. So what makes money? What makes people want to watch a movie? We've all heard the common phrase that sex sells. People want to see violence and lustful romance. These things are in pretty much every movie that's out in theaters right now. So it's pretty obvious they don't cater to Christians, but are they intentionally trying to be anti-Christian? So after seeing the latest episode of The Last of Us on HBO, Rainn Wilson posted this on Twitter. He says, "I do think there is an anti-Christian bias in Hollywood. As soon as the David character in The Last of Us started reading the Bible, I knew he was going to be a horrific villain. Could there be a Bible-reading preacher on a show who is actually loving and kind?" One reason I think this is interesting is Rainn Wilson isn't even a Christian. He's simply just calling it how he sees it. So here's one of the clips that Rainn Wilson was referring
Revelation
to.
21. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, "Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes.
So right off the bat, the whole ambiance or mood of the scene is just evil or villainous.
I've read this passage too many times. Do you remember what comes next? And God will wipe away all tears from their eyes.
You could tell they were setting him up to be a villain, but that's not even the part that I had the biggest issue with. Take a look at this scene where Ellie is confronting the villain. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it is pretty gory. Take a look at this part.
I thought you already knew. The fighting is the part I like the most.
It's just disgusting.
Don't be afraid. There's no fear in love.
Now that scene's the one that I had the biggest issue with. It's one thing to have a character, even a villain, who just kind of quotes the Bible, versus one who's intentionally misquoting scripture to perform acts of evil. This scene was very tough to watch. They're using a very beautiful Bible verse in 1 John 4:18 to punctuate how evil this character is. Now, in addition to Rainn Wilson's claims, Matthew McConaughey was on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple years back and also made very similar claims.
Have you encountered difficulty expressing this in Hollywood? You know, Hollywood is predominantly left-wing and very secular or Jewish in some circles, but it's not like a place where Christian fundamental values are espoused openly. You know, a lot of Jewish folks are in Hollywood, and that seems to be okay with a lot of people. But some other religions, particularly if you're a fundamentalist Christian or if you have Christian values, a lot of people frown upon that. Why do you think that is? And have you had difficulties with that?
I don't know if I haven't had difficulties. I have had, and I won't throw any people under the bus, but I have had moments where I was on stage receiving an award in front of my peers in Hollywood. And there were people in the crowd that I have prayed with before dinners many times. And when I thank God, I saw some of those people go to clap, but then notice that, whoa, it's going to be a bad thing on my resume, and then sit back on their hands.
Oh, wow.
And I've seen people read the room and go, whoa, that wouldn't bode well for me in the future. If for getting a job or getting votes or what have you. Yeah. I have seen that. I've witnessed that. I don't judge them for it. I just wish, that it seems like a silly argument. One of the things that our people, some people in our industry, not all of them, but there's some that go to the left so far as our friend Jordan Peterson, who's back, saw his video being back, that go to the illiberal left side so far that is so condescending and patronizing to 50% of the world that need the empathy that the liberal side gives and should give. To throw somebody's, illegitimize them because they say they are a believer. It's just so arrogant. And in some ways hypocritical to me.
Now, it would be very hard to argue against these two very popular and influential actors. They've been on several movie sets, at several award shows, several executive level meetings. So really, they're going to have more insights on this than any of us would. Now, on the surface, I would agree, and I think it's very easy to make the claim that Hollywood is anti-Christian. Like I mentioned, the movies they make are not made for Christians. They're not catered towards Christians. And for the most part, they're not going to contain any wholesome Christian content. But are they actively trying to paint Christians in a bad light? Are they actively trying to mock Christianity and offend Christians? I would probably say there are some individuals in Hollywood who are trying to. If you look online, you can see several lists of movies or TV shows where the Christian character is a Bible quoting villain, or the Christian character is a weak pushover. That said, there are some examples of Bible verses being used properly or in a context where it would make sense for a specific character to quote scripture. So in conclusion, I do think Hollywood has an anti-Christian bias. As we discussed, it's not intended to entertain Christians. It's a secular outlet. And I certainly think there are individual writers, producers, or even actors who do have an anti-Christian agenda and probably write that into their scripts and movies. That said, I think the main takeaway here is we should be diligent in analyzing the content that we choose to consume. Is the movie edifying? If the movie isn't anti-Christian as a whole, are we mature enough to identify anti-Christian themes throughout a movie? And are we able to not let that impact us spiritually? Let me know in the comment section below if you think Hollywood is anti-Christian. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, as it really helps out the channel. Peace.